Hello, my name is Megan Ward, and this is my informative speech on obsessive-compulsive disorder, also known as OCD. I have 3 sources from this. They were all credible. 2 came from the Aiken Technical College Library. 1 came from a psychology textbook. Right over here is my audience. Lovely people. Okay. To begin with, OCD only affects about 1 to 2% of the population of the entire world, so it is a very minor disorder, but it really impacts the people that have it. It is one of the least common and one of the least understood and most stigmatized of all the mental disorders or emotional disorders. Okay? The onset of this disorder usually happens around 18 to 25 years of age. It's a little bit earlier in females, but it can occasionally occur as early as the age of 10, and usually when this occurs, the treatment has to start immediately or the person is unable to function. To be diagnosed OCD, you have to do enough rituals in a day to take up an hour of your time. So say you spend over an hour washing your hands, or an hour setting everything up straight in your house, or an hour counting whatever steps that you take. It has to all add up to an hour. The easiest way to describe OCD is to make a circle with 4 spokes. You start with anxiety. When the person with OCD, I'll use compulsion for this, contamination for this one. And the anxiety comes from, it could be the fear of germs, the fear of dirt. So for this example, we're going to use if the person gets touched and they really have a fear of germs, which is mysophobia. They get touched and then they feel compulsed to wash their hands or to wear gloves so this doesn't happen again. And the compulsion turns around and gives you relief when you give in to this. And the relief will make you feel like, oh, that's a perfect fix for this. Every time you get touched from here on out, you do that, and that's where you get the obsession. And then it just circles back around: obsession, anxiety, compulsion, relief, and onward and upward until you make a ritual. There are many types of rituals. The first being sterilization, which we worked earlier. That could be obsessively cleaning cabinets, obsessively vacuuming, cleaning everything, just making sure everything around you is sterile. It comes from a fear of germs. The second is checking, which could be checking your locks about 10 times a day, checking to make sure the stove's off multiple times when you know it's off. It even goes so far for some people where they'll leave their house and have to come back multiple times to check to make sure their doors are locked. So it's really debilitating. Ordering is very stigmatized. That's where they do everything has to be straight or color-coded. It's actually not as common in OCD as one would think it is. This usually leans more towards the sterilization and checking part. Another part is the hoarding aspect, which is a little different than what you would think for obsessive-compulsive disorder. Hoarding is where you feel sentimental value attached to everything that you own. Like you don't want to get rid of anything, you hold on to it, and it could be like a plastic bag that you feel attached to, and you just keep it. And you keep everything that comes into your life until you just have a house full of basically nothing, and it becomes a huge fire hazard, and it just overtakes a life. Another one is repetition, where you do things over and over. It could be knocking on a door a certain amount of times, or opening and closing a door a certain amount of times before you can actually walk through. And that tends to go hand in hand with counting, which it's pretty much the same thing, but it could be like you feel you have to blink 8 times before you get out of bed, or you have to, say, brush your teeth 5 times before you can leave the house, or you feel like you're not going to have a good day. Another one is like religious stuff. You feel like if you don't go to church every week or multiple times every week, you feel like your life's going to fall apart. And there's also a superstitious side to that, where if you see a black cat, you feel like your day is just destroyed, or if you step on a sidewalk crack, you're just unable to function for the rest of the day, or you have to go back and actually redo it, which takes up time of your day. One of the worst aspects is the picking, which is a form of self-harm. That's where if you have, like, say, a bug bite on your skin, a person with OCD would see that as an imperfection and would just pick at it until it bled, or if they had a hair, they'd yank it out. In some cases, they'll even tear out all their hair in a fit of obsession and compulsion. Phobias tend to go hand in hand with this disorder, like, for instance, agoraphobia, which is the fear of open spaces or crowds. And that can isolate a person to the point where they don't leave their house. And that tends to go in with mysophobia, which is the fear of germs, which goes with contamination. It's just where you can see like every germ on everybody, and it just freaks you out to the point where you won't let people touch you or you won't touch them, and it just really isolates. Treatment for OCD is usually pretty successful. It includes medicines and therapy together. The medicines can be anxiety medicines, antidepressants, and serotonin blockers, which help kind of dilute the feeling of the compulsion and makes you feel more mellow and calm down, and you're able to actually function throughout the day. In most cases, this really works. Therapy is the best for OCD because you really get to talk about and get to the root of your problem, because usually there is a root with these cases. And also, when you really talk about the spokes, you hear that only 1 to 2% of people have OCD, but it's really people around you. Your family members could have it, or like celebrities like Howie Mandel has this disorder, and he has the compulsion of sterilization to the point where he wears gloves every day and a face mask and has a separate house just to keep sterile if he feels he has to get away, and it's just consumed his life. So it's really a debilitating disorder, and it's very stigmatized in today's world. They have shirts that say obsessive Christmas disorder or obsessive corgi disorder, and it really just takes away from how horrible this disease is and how it can really wreck your life. And that's my speech. There's my audience.